meeting for October 10th, 2018. We'll go ahead and introduce ourselves.
Oh, I'm Jerry Herman.
Dorothy Dahlstrit.
Doug Neely.
Nancy Broshot.
And Matt Cool.
And I'm Pete Walter, staff.
Okay, and we have a very short agenda, but we do have, I do want to take under the old business part revisions in the code, and something that came up at the end of the last meeting, and I was looking at some of the wording of one of the items there, and I want to discuss it. So under the old business, and we'll
Okay.
we'll put that under old business. Anything else anybody wants on the agenda? It's not there already, which is almost nothing.
Looks good.
Well, did you want to make that suggestion about Myers Road?
Yeah, what was the, I can't remember what it's called.
Myers Road extension.
Yeah, the Myers Road extension.
Yes, okay.
Because
We'll put that under new business.
Okay.
And so that would come first.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, we will take public comment on non-agenda items. Does anybody want to make a public comment?
No, it has nothing to do with us. I'll make a public comment.
You gotta sit over there in that chair. And then you gotta introduce yourself and say.
No, never mind, I'll just, maybe I'll do it, when do we
Wait till general
And
communicate?
she doesn't fall for seizure at all. Have you ever noticed that?
I know, I've been baffled before.
Well, speak.
I should wish I should have pulled it up and had it all right here.
You had a 10-minute break for crying out loud.
I know it. I went to a subdivision with Enron Review, R8 single-family dwellings up on Swan Avenue in Oregon City. If I'm hoping I'm talking about the right one.
Okay, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
The little triangle spot
Yeah.
up on top.
Yep.
I was so sad when I went up there.
Wow.
It is completely clear cut. There was a great big giant oak tree that could have been saved because it's right on the curb. Right on the curb. You could have made a dented sidewalk, which are all over up in there.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. That was my response.
Whose development is this?
I don't know whose development that is.
I don't know either, but it's a current application,
It's so sad.
and they are.
One tree.
It was as you know, we don't regulate trees on private residential property if it's not going through land use.
It would have been on a sidewalk.
Yeah,
That
no,
big tree would have been on a
just gonna
sidewalk,
say,
not even one left in the
That
corner.
application involves
Wow.
keeping about a 5,000 square foot tract of trees in the back corner that they wanted to keep a section of trees on there, but the remainder of the parcel is going to be subdivided with roads and
Now, was this tree cut down before the application?
I don't know about
There was
this.
about 20 trees that were cut down
Well,
of
before
various
the
different
application
sizes.
came out.
I couldn't tell you. They all look
Well,
new to me.
I mean, this has been an issue for
Yeah, this
some
is
time.
part of the discussion of the
that
planning commission as well. so.
People cut down the trees, so they don't have to deal with any mitigation efforts at all.
Yeah,
Right.
Because they haven't put forward the application yet.
Yep.
right.
This
and-
needs to be changed.
Well, yes, and Pete was talking to me a little bit earlier about a Lake Oswego ordinance, and
Yeah.
really,
That was the annexation policy.
it doesn't
Yeah.
completely preclude them cutting down the trees, but then they gotta wait 3 years or something like
Well,
that.
that was annexation,
Yeah.
yeah. So Lake Oswego also has codes that govern.
And you know,
private
they
residential
do
tree
give a list of their trees that they're going to plant, that they're going to mediate against, which
Yeah.
But grand old oak,
I mean, I think we should acknowledge, that
I'm sorry, that's so.
properties that are zoned residential are within an urban growth boundary are going to be redeveloped
Of Swan.
eventually. And they are going to have some trees on them.
It's up.
And currently, we do allow for the removal of trees, and there's not language in the code that requires preservation of trees.
So it's.
And it doesn't force a developer to design around trees currently. So if you follow a code like Lake Oswego's or Gresham's, where they actually have a type 2 removal process, whether or not you're going through a development review process, then that's the type of model that Oregon City might move towards in the future.
I think this is a campaign issue of one of the.
I think it may
persons running
be.
For an office, so.
Right, exactly. And then that requires, fees, staff, administration.
Right.
For a city our size, I think we estimated a few years back that would probably be about 1.5 FTE to administer a program like that. Because now you're looking at every lot in the city and regulating every residential lot for tree removal. Currently, we don't do that. Only when they're going through land use, so, yeah.
I look at the decision of the actual person that's going to live on that property making decisions of whether they want a tree or not differently than I look at the developer themselves cutting down the trees.
Right.
I think it's a different issue.
Well, I'm not going to say frequently, but they may be the same person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the property owner wants to develop, and they have a significant chunk of land, and they know that they can remove trees before they sell the property.
I guess I see
Yeah,
that wrong.
they're trading out all of those oaks for red maple.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now we're gonna get
Very
little
native.
trees that are gonna grow maybe 18 feet high. Of course, my red maple, I think, is maybe to my shoulder, and it's maybe 40 years old.
Yeah, I mean, if we were, this is how codes get longer and longer. I mean, I'm not saying it's
Right.
if the city was to change the code to require that if a certain species is removed, then a certain species is put back, we could do that. We could add that into the zoning code. It just makes the zoning code longer.
I
Yeah,
think this is going to be a piece of the discussion on your item, that you were focusing on wetlands, but.
Right, sure.
But there's
Yeah,
there's white oak and.
yeah, there are big oaks in there as well.
So there's no oak preservation or protection ordinances in Oregon? Or is it just specific?
Well, I don't know about the entire state. I can only
I
speak
know-
for the city.
I know in the state that shall not be named, there are.
Oh, right. Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I know.
Orange County and
That's a state
others
rule, isn't it?
have
Yeah.
rules, anything over 6 inches DBH has to be, permitted. and,
Yeah,
there's other problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I have cousins in Sacramento and.
Okay.
But you're,
Well, then, does this in the public comment now?
That was something, I just, that was really the.
well, I want to ask a
that was my
question.
public comment.
Pete, I thought I heard you say it was done when it was still private property.
Right.
Before they came to you with a plan of any type and a review process request, right?
Correct.
So these new trees that are being discussed have nothing to do with what was there before.
No.
They simply are design expectations of the city.
There may be, I haven't seen the application, Jerry, so I don't know what the tree removal and mitigation plan looks like. If I had that in front of me, I could answer your questions pretty
They
firm.
traded it out for maples, I read it.
So,
Well, they don't-
but, yeah. Okay.
Okay, we'll go ahead and discuss then the Myers Road Concept Plan
Okay. So,
under new business.
That's what I have to say.
let's see.
I
No,
understand.
that's not what I wanted to do. Open with that. All right, so Kelly Reed is she sent the land use notice out today for this application. This is the Myers Road extension, and I asked Kelly to put together a quick five slides summarizing what this application is about. The application is submitted by the Public Works Department and be reviewed by planning. File numbers are NR 1807, that's Natural Resource Overlay District, and a site plan. The reason that we assigned it a site plan is because it's subject to not just natural resources, but to the Tree Protection Code of Chapter 1741. And so the only review that's going on as far as this SP file goes is tree removal outside. Well, you've got tree removal both within the Natural Resource Overlay District and outside of the Natural Resource Overlay District. So I don't know all the details, but I'm going to run through this slideshow. This project implements a connector between Myers Road to Myers Road, south of the community college, crosses north of the park site here, which is the Glen Oak Park. Provides a critical collector road to take some of the traffic volume off of Beaver Creek Road and spread it around. The college is wanting to use this as part of their expansion and would be using it eventually to accommodate the expansion of the college. It's part of the transportation system plan, and right now the Public Works Department is in the process of designing this roadway and have submitted this application in order to get land use approval. This aerial photograph shows the Natural Resource Overlay District as adopted. They have submitted what's called an NROD, or Natural Resource Overlay District verification. That means that they have had a wetland specialist, stream specialist go out there and actually determine where the resource location is in relation to the current map. I want to zoom in here. Oh boy. So this purple is the current NROD boundary, and it is the proposed roadway is here. They have delineated a small wetland of approximately 2,000 feet. I've got a better slide that shows this, 2,000 square feet here, outside of the NROD boundary. Department of State Lands has commented on that wetland. And because it's small, I believe they're going to allow that wetland to be filled. The mitigation approach under DSL rules has yet to be determined. The delineation indicated that there were no resources identified during the project environmental staff's field assessment within what was mapped.
Why is the purple map so
So
linear?
far off? Oh, the reason it's linear is because sorry, let me go back up. Sorry, where are we at? Within that buffer was a mapped stream, an old Title III stream, which is apparently no longer there. And conditions have changed over time. The detailed report has photographs and hundreds of pages of soil surveys and cover assessments and things like that. Let's go in a little more detail here. Sorry about this. 2,175 square foot wetland found during site analysis. The DSL, Department of State Lands, concurred with the delineation. They need to obtain a fill or removal permit for that small wetland. They determined that it is not a water of the U.S. for the Army Corps of Engineers. And then the study area boundary is here. Let me zoom back in a little bit. Sorry. Oh, this is such a small screen. Okay. This is a power line corridor easement that crosses over the top. They did a complete arborist report inventory for all trees greater than 6 inches diameter. And next we'll look at a slide for
I want to just ask a question there.
Yeah.
While we have that. Is that dashed boundary there, that's not an NROD, is it?
No, this
Okay.
dash boundary is the project area.
Okay.
And so I think what they're doing there is capturing areas of proposed grading to
Okay.
accommodate the roadway.
That's pretty steep in there, so they're going to have to do a lot of work.
John Lewis indicated it is pretty steep. So as far as the summary of tree removal, the proposal is to remove 189 trees with diameters greater than 6 inches. Our code requires that there be 460 mitigation trees. There's very limited opportunity on site within the project area, because on either side of this roadway is private. It's the Saunders property and another property, and those are zoned campus industrial and have not been developed yet. The city's delineation only applies to the project area and not to the private properties either side of it. So there hasn't been any assessment north or south of where the city project area is today. That would occur when a development proposal comes forward on those parcels. However, because there's drainage that needs to be captured from this roadway, and it needs to follow low-impact development standards for the roadway, and there needs to be swales built alongside the roadway and culverts built underneath the roadway. The engineering department is looking at the impact of the drainage that comes from what dividing those properties with the roadway will do. And there's going to be a grade change because the roadway is going to be built up above the level of the northern parcel, and there needs to be some culverts constructed to take drainage underneath it. And those culverts need to be designed and sloped in such a way that the force of the water will not create erosion on the other side. So as far as 18 mitigation trees being planted on site, that's what they anticipate planting on site. But with the remaining mitigation trees, they wanted to pay mitigation fee in lieu, and based on the current.
Now, these are trees that are under 6 inches?
So the way the mitigation fee works is it's based on the cost of a 2-inch caliper tree, 460 of those, and it's tagged to the construction price index, so it goes up 3% every year. And that total would be about 142.
But all these trees that are under 6 inches, though? You gotta have 189 trees over 6 inches. I presume the others are under.
Right, the replacement trees, if they were planted, would be a minimum 2-inch caliper tree. So that's.
We say they will be mitigated, so these 442 trees are gonna be removed as well?
No, this 442 number is based off of the code. So the way the code
Oh,
works,
okay.
it's based on on the
Okay.
diameter of the tree
All right,
removed.
so I understand now.
And if it's in a construction area, the mitigation ratio is slightly lower than if it's outside the construction.
Okay, now,
Yeah.
I do know, a meeting I had attended, I believe it was a commission meeting. They indicated this was part of a grove of white oak are among those trees that are going to be removed. Are they going to find an area where white oak can be replanted, specifically that species?
I don't know, but that's certainly a recommendation that the committee can make.
Yeah, I would suggest
Take
that.
out what if we need to put oak back.
Yeah, so I think after the end of this presentation, we probably should put a motion forward.
Yeah. Well, that's,
The question I have here is, of the 189 trees, the requirement is for 442, right, according to your standards?
that's the calculation that's in the application.
Okay, but
Yeah.
the plan is for 18 mitigation trees to be replanted, and then payment in lieu of mitigation for the rest, is that right?
Yeah, that's
Where does that money go?
It goes into the mitigation tree bank and is used
Okay.
for tree planting.
I just did a
citywide.
quick,
Like
whatever,
Friends of Trees.
$320 per tree. 442 trees divided in 142,000 is about $320 per tree. Is that
That's
typical?
correct. Well, that's what we've adopted in our fee schedule. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my question, I guess, is why, or is it being done that way versus requiring more than 18 trees? Not that
Well,
I care.
the application stating that that's all they have room for within the project
Okay.
area. They could potentially be conditioned to plant more trees and pay less in mitigation. That's a because this is not a decision that's been made yet. We've
So
got
that
until
money's-
October 25th to make a formal comment on this.
Okay. So that money is sufficient for 320 more trees. How will those other trees get planted?
Well, once money goes into the tree bank, it stays there until it's expended through some project. And right now, those monies are being used to fund the Friends of Trees project for planting citywide. And through a contract that's been updated yearly through our department, planning. And there are probably other ways to spend $142,000. That's the most money that's ever been put into the.
I mean, is this funding Friends for Trees work, for instance, or?
Well, right now, it would just be held in the city account until a project that
Okay.
comes up. You
I
know.
mean, obviously $320 per tree is a very good price. I mean, and it's probably a realistic planted price for a 2-inch
Yeah,
tree.
back when that fee was adopted, it was based off of 3 or 4 landscaping company quotes, you know, for
For not just the
Purchase.
trees, but for actually planting the trees.
purchase,
Yeah,
transport,
everything,
soil,
and
yeah.
planting.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I agree.
And
Okay.
some people have said it needs to be higher. In fact, the planning commission has recommended that the fee be
Right.
150% of that, because you don't know how long it's going to take to replant. So that's a change that's actually going through the works right now. Yeah,
And sometimes those new plants don't survive.
that's true.
Do we have any
But
idea
then,
how many of
depending
these
on the
trees are
project,
oaks?
there may be a warranty on
Are they
these.
all-
It's a white
Yeah.
oak
All
grove,
189 trees are
pretty
white oak?
much.
If it's
It's a grove.
If it's a city-approved project, the trees are treated like any public improvement and have to be warranted for a period of 2 years. Difficulty is, it's not like a hardscaping concrete. You know, if the tree is still alive at the end of a 2-year warranty period, then you're done. But it could die shortly thereafter. So, you know, but there has to be some sort of thing with it in order for the developer to be able to walk away from the project. Yeah.
But the real issue here, there's not sufficient room to do something. Is that,
Apparently.
okay.
I don't know all the details.
Well, the reason I'm asking this question is the college ran into a situation with the Environmental Learning Center where
Yeah,
Oregon City School District had to mitigate for all the work they were doing. And the
right.
new expansion of their transportation bus facility and so forth.
Yep,
And they couldn't plant
couldn't
all the
fit
trees
either.
on their property
Right.
that you folks required.
right.
So they made a deal with the college
Yeah.
to bring some of those bigger trees in there.
Yeah.
Is that an option? Or what would you prefer?
Yeah, I mean, the first priority is planting on site. Second priority is as close to the impact area as possible. And
Okay.
then the third priority is something else, which could be a
Okay.
combination of fee and lieu, or planting in city parks, or somewhere else where it really needs it. And I think, you know, fee and lieu is not the only option.
Okay.
It's just what's currently proposed by Public Works.
On that Myers Road, there's still going to be quite a bit of walking ability between the high school and the college, correct?
Yeah, that access way,
I
yeah.
really recommend an
And
educational sign.
that's in the natural resource overlay district, that little section. Yeah,
Maybe if we can get a public awareness sign saying, yes, you've noticed a lot of our lovely rare Oregon white oaks have been removed. This is what's being done. Look at these areas that we're planting, and if we could plant more white oak somewhere
yeah.
in there, in behind it maybe, and
So I just want to say that these are all good ideas, and one of you needs to be writing these down, because I'm not going to, because I'm staff. If you're going to comment as a committee, then you can make the decision to make these recommendations tonight and make as many bullet points as you want, agree to it, and then somebody can write it up after the fact and send it to me before October 25th,
You know,
or to Kelly,
I'm
yeah.
a little bit confused about what you're describing in terms of the high school and the college, though, in terms of.
Right,
the pitch.
impact area, yeah.
I'm just trying to think about, is it the bus barn going back, but there's a walking area and that's all
Oh,
white oak?
okay, so you were
And
talking about
there-
Myers Road specifically.
Yeah, in that area, and with that,
A lot of that area is wetland and an ash grove is there. I'm not sure that's the best area, frankly.
Yeah, I think that access way is,
Okay.
see where I'm waving the cursor here?
Right.
It's somewhere over here outside the project
Is
area.
that the walk-in
But
area?
it is on it is on community college property and,
But if it's
And
wet soil,
for high
folks
school.
don't like wet soil.
Yeah, they
Right.
dry foot.
right.
So I don't think they would work there.
So, yeah, the,
Oh, there's the other end of it, I couldn't
the
remember.
difficulty, I think, is the limitation of the project area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that particular area obviously is constrained for planting, but, you know, any recommendations for
We
planting
have,
offsite?
we have several pocket parks, and you can see in the city, you can see areas around them that are in white oak. And a lot of these pocket parks don't have any trees planted in them.
Right.
And what I'm going to suggest is, if we're following Robert's Rules of Orders, I cannot make a motion, but that we put a motion into effect that the greatest effort be put forward to plant the mitigation plantings be done with white oak in areas where the habitat is such that white oak will grow, preferably on public lands. So I don't know if somebody wants to put forward that motion.
I second
I
that.
second that.
Well, I can't make the motion.
Oh, okay. You make it. No, I'll
No,
second.
you make it, no.
Oh, gosh. What was that? So we were suggesting that, I make a motion that the tree mitigation be replaced with white oak in more possible public areas, parks and other city public areas be replaced with white oak.
That are suitable for
That
white
is
oak.
Suitable
with
for white
suitable
oak.
habitat.
Thank you. And a
As
suitable
related to the Myers Road project.
As related to Myers Road
Were
project.
there any
yeah.
other
I
species
second
in there, Doug? Because I didn't
Oh,
actually,
that I don't know.
Um,
Yeah, and so I don't know, but
I apologize.
See, give me open mic, I just go on and on and on.
I'm not sure it's all white oak
We
either.
could stipulate half the
There's
trees.
a lot of it, there's a
or-
lot of white oak in there. And I think that,
Should we stipulate like half the trees be white oak, the mitigated trees, or 2/3 of the trees, or?
I would
Or
say
as
the,
in an appropriate proportion as what is
Right.
removed.
Well, that would be good. Yeah, that's a
proportion,
good-
proportion, but.
because there was, at one point, there was, somebody whipped out how many trees were going out, and that was like a year and a half ago.
So, yeah, so,
And you said there was a full report on the trees that are being.
There's an
so-
arborist
so-
report in addition to the wetland report.
So we know what's being
Yeah.
removed.
Yeah.
so basically it's a proportional,
Yeah.
build that into motion, proportional.
Somebody writing this down?
Well, he will have to take the motion and.
That's true, I will.
This is a formal motion.
Get that one back.
These aren't suggestions, we're putting forward actually a formal motion, so he is gonna have to get that in there.
Yeah, let's add that the white
Motion.
oak be proportional to the.
To the ones that are being moved out of the Myers
White
Road
oaks.
extension.
Yeah, give him a chance to write it down, then we can go ahead and edit what he writes down.
Can you say it one more time, please?
I make a motion that the mitigation of the white oak on Myers Road be replaced on public lands and suitable areas that would sustain white oak habitat.
With
One
white
to
oaks
one, if not more.
proportional
Replacement, yeah.
to the amount of white oaks that they're taking out.
And-
Correct.
And amount
Something like that.
proportional.
That's really a bad sentence, but yeah.
I think certain operators,
I can get worse,
To
you know.
the-
Just give me more time, than just rattle.
White oak
rattle,
removed.
rattle.
Diameter
No, you did fine. That's
or
fine.
just amount?
Diameter or amount? Maybe
Amount.
diameter, because some of those white oaks are probably some of the biggest trees in there.
well,
But it makes
Replace
sense.
them with a,
yeah, I think we've got to do it in amount, I mean.
Yeah, that's
You're not gonna plant a.
I'm gonna go out there
5 foot,
and measure the DBH of every.
3 foot
yeah,
diameter
it's a
oak.
mitigation tree. so-
Oh, give them the final.
In proportional to the amount
They're gonna be
of,
2 inches.
And in 100 years, they'll be 6 inches.
Removed.
That's right.
That broke my
Might
heart.
redevelop in 100 years.
Okay,
That's
and
why we
then
want it in public lands.
on city-owned public lands or in public lands. Or
Well, I
or-
don't know if we can,
I don't know.
The point is if we are to go into
Potentially,
private
you
land.
could replant on the college as well, but the college would have
College.
to agree to it.
But, you know, Metro, I mean, you know, they have the land, Metro's land there, in Kanema. And, they've been cutting down, fir trees to reestablish the oak savanna. So they
They
may
might
have
want some,
use,
yeah.
yeah, they might want to have some of those trees.
On maybe protected lands, which would include public and protected
Uh,
lands,
protected.
because the college lands are kind of protected.
Public lands, okay. Or other lands suitable. Okay, motion is to mitigate for the removal of white oaks associated with the Myers Road Extension Project with white oaks on public lands or other suitable lands in amounts proportional to the amount of white oaks removed.
Yeah, just want to go back up to other lands suitable for white oak,
Suitable
Protected
habitat.
lands, right?
Yeah, protected lands. I think.
Suitable.
protected lands, right?
Yeah.
Protected, okay. Lands,
Wordsmithing.
And the public lands and protected lands are suitable for white oak. So it applies to them both.
So it's gonna be a habitat requirement as well as
Yeah.
just protected lands.
okay.
Now, we had a second to the motion?
Yes.
All in favor, say, well, we should do it individual by individual. Jerry?
Pardon?
Vote. Jerry?
I'm happy.
Yes
Say aye.
no? Why? I know you're happy, what's your vote?
I didn't know what you were
Yes
asking.
for Dee Dee, yes for me.
Yes, for
If you're
Nancy.
happy, yes.
Okay. Motion carries 5-0.
We did something.
5,
Can you explain, Pete, the connection to Douglas Loop? What is their thinking there? The college thinking this is going to
so
relieve?
the master plan for the college has long had a condition of approval attached to it that they either add a lane to either side of 213 in order to improve traffic capacity as the college increases, or make this connection to Myers Road. And they're opting for the latter.
And,
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that
Short
would work.
loop, that would be,
yeah,
Yeah,
That
and
makes
then,
sense.
and I should also say that associated with this is the transportation hub improvement for the bus station at the college, which has been approved and is under construction. So eventually, all of the transit that would go via this fourth leg.
and much of this land there is in fact zone industrial, and with their industrial technology center building, I mean, have connectivity to the industrial lands, I
Yes.
think is important.
So Barlow Hall got improved, the parking lot for Barlow Hall got improved, ITC's constructed, the transit hub is getting renovated, and Desjardins Hall is getting expanded as well. So all of that's happening in this location.
Unrelated question, but when they're doing that main entry for Transit Mall, et cetera, there was a detention area there,
Right.
right off of
Yeah.
Douglas Loop. Now it's gone.
Yeah, but, those detention facilities had essentially ceased to work.
They what?
And they'd ceased to really function when, the way they were intended
Okay.
to when they were constructed back in the 70s, or whenever. It was maybe earlier, or later than that. They've got to do low-impact development, stormwater control based on the current requirements. So there'll be some swales going in to the parking lot to replace that and that sort of thing.
The swales they've already put in are rather substantial.
Yeah.
And
it's
the
a big
flow
one.
is, the flow into the ELC has dropped dramatically
Right.
because of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Tremendously. The reason I'm asking is Andy Rice was the architect up there I knew him very well, and he was the
Uh-huh.
first architect in Oregon that ever designed this stuff into that parking
Yeah.
lot system, all these mini bioswales and all this stuff that took the drainage. That's the Coppell Creek side of the campus. And
Yeah.
I was sad to see that go, because that holding area, rarely did water go over the top of the road. Let it all go back in the ground.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway,
I-
if something better is happening, that's fine.
I don't know if it's going to be better, but it's certainly going to intend to be better. It's got to be planted with natives, and it's got to do a lot more than just convey water. It has to
Okay.
infiltrate it if the ground allows that, and then take the storm water off of the parking lot and off the road as well. So, yeah. But the planting plan is in the, I can show you the planting plan.
For this?
Not right now, but if
Oh,
you,
okay.
if you
No
talk to me.
problem.
Yeah, okay.
So we're ready to go on to old business?
Okay.
Okay. Now, the item I'm bringing up is, Trent had asked a question that, or made a statement or something when we were having our end of the session, and that brought up language that was in the code. And Peter read this one out to me, and it excited me because it actually talks about the Natural Resource Committee's input and advice in terms of developments in the NRODs. But I wasn't listening that carefully, and I don't like it. I'm going to read it to you. The public is encouraged to contact the Oregon City Natural Resource Committee for input and advice on ways to further the purpose of the Natural Resource Overlay District, whether or not a development application is proposed within the Natural Resource Overlay District. Any advice given to the Natural Resource Committee is non-binding on the applicant and the Natural Resource Committee, and shall not relieve the applicant from compliance with the chapter. My problem is the first two words. The public is
okay.
encouraged. It should be the applicant.
The applicant.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an easy change.
Yeah.
Let me go back and, so this, yeah, we've got folders with versions. And this one is going to be in here. So I'll pull that up. And we would, the way we're doing this is we're actually writing in the change without tracking the changes for various reasons. It's a little clunky, but you'll see what we're doing.
Now, the fact this is underlined, does it mean it used to be redlined and,
It used to be redlined and the planning commission has already reviewed it, so then it changed to black, but it
Okay.
stayed underlined.
but it's still code revisions and that will
Yeah,
go
it's
to
still open code,
yeah, that will
so,
be going to the city commission.
so this becomes red and struck out like that.
That's good. Now,
Yeah.
I had sent an email out to Pete and Laura indicating a couple of things that we had discussed here in terms of the code, and I was putting forward as a something to be actually read into the review to the planning commission. They indicated the issue, and I didn't submit it because of what the staff had said. It had to do with the accessory dwelling units that you can build on, and I had suggested that the tree removal follow the same mitigations as a regular development. The point that Pete made to me was this. The idea is these are things that when it comes to city-wide area, these are individual property owners that might build an accessory dwelling unit on their property. And the purpose of this was to try to, and I don't know how you do this, try to assure it meets some of our affordable housing requirements, and to put additional expenses onto it would raise the cost of the activity. It seemed logical to me. If anybody wants me to go ahead and pursue this, I will. But for the most part, these are going to be, as I understand it, housing units that are approved in the code and allow ancillary units to be added on. Is that correct?
Yeah, so accessory dwelling units have long been permitted since 2004, but there's been only a very few formally approved, 23 that we know of. And the point of this code amendment process is to simplify the code for those.
Now, there are various other things
Yeah.
in this code in terms of,
Yeah.
for example, duplexes on our code, I guess, are supposed to face the same street. It's been revised so it can face two streets when it's a corner lot. There are also other changes occurring. If in fact it's a development of a new housing unit, those requirements still exist in terms of mitigation in the envelope.
If somebody's doing a land division or a site plan review, which is they're developing the land to make the parcels to put the building on, then the tree protection code applies.
Good.
If somebody already has a lot
Yes.
that's vacant or they're just doing an addition, then that section does not apply to that because it's just a building permit.
But
Yeah. And that's what we've been just talking about, is that you're a homeowner, you've got your parcel, and 71% of the cities is detached residential housing units. And then, you know, as long been a discussion is, are we going to apply tree protection code to every process, including building? And that's where we get into the 1.5 FTE and administering and regulating private residential
But where-
property in
where-
a
where
pretty
is-
significant way.
But where there's a formal subdivision, the requirements are still there.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, if you're coming in with raw land and you're dividing it and there's trees on there, at the time of application, the code is in effect from the day you apply until the development is completed. And people that know that, you know, the ones that want to do the right thing, they don't remove the trees ahead of time, they just wait and then they apply. And then there are other people that know that they can remove them ahead of time because at that point, it's really just a residential lot with one house on it. It's really big. So we treat it just like we would a smaller residential lot. So yeah, that's the way it currently works. And yeah,
my thought is though, if you're gonna be putting a smaller unit on the property, whether it be for yourself, downsizing and or an affordable home, you're gonna remove a tree and you may have to spend, to remove it, you may have to pay some mediation on it. You're still gaining value of your home way over and above the mediation fee of that tree. Why shouldn't you have to pay mediation if you're gonna be putting on a whole nother unit that will increase your value tremendously?
yeah, I don't disagree with you. It's just that our feeling was that this is really something that needs a much wider process in terms of public input. It wasn't part of the project advisory team's recommendation coming out of this project, and it does affect citywide. It affects many, many more people than have currently been involved in the process. And in terms of, you know, meeting goal one and getting input.
I guess
Yeah,
the problem I have, I mean, we were aware of the meetings and public meetings and I went,
yeah,
but on all those boards that
So
you're
much
making
information.
decisions and so forth,
yeah.
this specific issue wasn't up there.
No, it
And
wasn't.
I think if, you know, if we had a chance to.
It came in later because of planning commission.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so the public had really not much way of weighing in on it, because that wasn't something that was being thought about.
Right.
We came up with it.
Yeah.
It's still a decision that, it's still in the hands of the planning commission at this time, is it not?
It is, yeah, so,
Okay, I'm gonna ask a question. Do you know the cost of a mitigated tree within the building envelope? We're only talking about within the building envelope.
what's that?
With the cost of mitigating a tree within a building envelope.
By actually replanting or
Well, no,
removing it?
what the person, what would normally be the developer would have to pay for mitigating that tree within the envelope.
Yeah, so it would probably be the same mitigation fee, about $320. Same one that we just discussed for the Public Works project, yeah.
I see
Can we recoup that?
no harm in
Yeah.
charging someone $320
But, you know, it's like, if they had a 15-inch tree removed, they might have to plant 5 of those, so it's 5 times $320.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It adds up.
the notion, I mean, so a large tree is going to be,
Yeah, I'll show you the tables.
yeah, let's look at the table.
1741. Okay.
What did you say you'd like to do, Mr. Chairman? You
Well-
said you could go carry forth a message here, is that what I?
Well, if this body takes, and makes a decision, the majority, I would go before the planning commission and make the recommendation. But I think we have to have some feeling as to what we have here.
Okay, so this is the table. There's the table says size of the tree removed, 6 to 12 inch, 13 to 18, 19 to 24, 25 to 30, 31 and over.
And each one of those are worth the 300 and some odd dollars in the column.
Then you calculate how many trees have to be planted if that tree is removed, and make that calculation. And so depending on, if you're outside of a construction area, meaning if you could feasibly avoid having to remove that tree, and the construction area is defined in the code, then it's column 1, which requires, if you could have practicably avoided removing that tree, you're gonna have to mitigate with more trees. If you couldn't practically avoid removing that tree, then the ratio is less. Once you've figured that out, here's the steps. Steps. First, you count all the trees 6 inches or more on the site. You have an arborist report that calculates the diameter.
So that's expensive.
Yep.
Yeah.
Survey, document any dead, diseased, dying, or hazardous. You get to subtract dead, diseased, dying, or hazardous trees from the calculation. Anything left is considered healthy. If you're going to remove healthy trees, then you have to identify construction area, what's in, what's out. And based on the size of each tree that you're going to remove, use those columns to calculate the final number. And that's your mitigation number. And you either plant that many trees, or you plant some of those trees and do the rest in fee and lieu. Or you can choose to preserve the trees as well, but this code does not require that currently. It never did. It always was to say it crudely, it was a pay-to-play type.
That number you end up with is a number times 300 and, I mean, whatever that number you gave.
Yeah,
Plus,
so-
whatever it costs to hire an arborist to come in and
Yeah.
assess the trees, which is
And
thousands of
what we're
dollars.
really talking about here are these properties of record, that it is a piece of property that belongs to an individual. They want to put an accessory unit or something else there. And my personal feeling that could be cost prohibitive.
Yeah, so right now, under applicability, it says development, anything going through a land division, anything going through site plan design review. And that applies to non-residential property and residential property. So if you're doing a public improvement project like Myers Road, this applies. If you're doing tree canopy removal on steep slopes, it applies. If you're doing heritage, if you're proposing removing a heritage grove, it applies. But it refers to that. We actually need to update this and say 12.32. So let's say that.
So in terms of, I always want to say ancillary, and that's not it.
I'm sorry?
The word for the dwelling units.
Oh, accessory dwelling units.
Yeah, accessory dwelling units. For one thing, they're what, how many square feet?
They are maximum 40%, currently 40% of your house. You can do one. The proposal is to increase that to 60% or 800 square feet, whichever is smaller. So you can't go over 800 square feet with an accessory dwelling unit. Yeah. And it could be detached from your house, it could be over a garage, it could be a, sit in your
If somebody wants to
backyard.
put forward a motion, we can vote on it to have the ancillary units subjected to the same requirements as the accessory units, excuse me, dwelling units, subject to the same requirements as the rest of the code. So if somebody wants to do that and it passes, I will take it to the planning commission.
Given the fact that you have to get an arborist report, that's a big expense. It's not just planting trees. If we could say something like, you have to plant trees relative to the size of the tree that you remove,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I could go with that, but to require an arborist to come in is,
yeah.
it's really costly. Yeah, it's thousands of
This
dollars.
whole thing would be thousands of dollars.
And
then
staff's
to defeat the
concern, not
purpose
just mine, but
almost.
Laura's, was why are we singling out accessory dwelling units for this
Right.
treatment? I mean, why isn't any building permit going to be subject to the
Right.
same
And
requirement?
our code.
And that's what, we either have to do all
And
of
so
them.
there's an equity issue there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, for some reason, they're using the term equitable housing instead of affordable housing. We all know it means affordable housing.
Well, no,
So
the reason
Well,
why
not
we said that,
necessarily.
Doug, was because we're not just looking at affordable housing. It was saying we're looking at every type of housing across the
Right.
board,
Yeah.
inclling single family. You know,
Well,
you have
If you
a-
can,
The point is, I don't think, part of it is for affordable housing.
Sure.
And to add on an arborist fee and then the cost of the trees and so forth, when the intent is to really have some of the housing affordable, I'd prefer not to go that way, but if somebody wants to put forward a motion and gets it second and passed, I'll go before the planning commission.
Okay.
Hearing none, I think,
well, I'm probably the only one on here that says I think you ought to pay to play,
Well,
because
you can put forward a
even,
motion.
even
you
with,
can put forward the motion.
even with
I would
affordable
put forward,
housing.
I'll
Go
attempt a motion that this body concurs that the cost of accessory dwelling unit development could be adversely affected by, what do you want me to say?
No, we don't, the only motion that you put forward is you want the mitigation to occur. It's not occurring now, so you don't have to put a motion for something that already exists. So if you want the mitigation to occur, then that's the motion you have to put forward.
Then I move that the mitigation occur in the most cost-effective manner to advance accessory dwelling units.
What do you mean cost effective?
It's up to them to figure that out.
Do I hear a second? We have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second that motion because I'm the one who was kind of thinking, well, you'd be making a, $120,000 improvement on your home. I think you can afford,
So
and
you're,
I don't even know if you can say, if they'll say, well, this tree is dead. Well, then you have to prove it's dead. You know what I mean? They can say, well, these,
But we've got a second, we
right, yeah,
got a
that's all
discussion
good, yeah.
afterwards, so that's part of the discussion, that's okay. So discussion,
My whole intent is to give the people, the staff that have ability in all these areas to figure out a way to make it most
we
effective,
have a
to
motion,
advance.
we have a motion, we have a second,
That was my discussion.
yes, I'll second that.
okay?
Okay.
Voted individually, Sherry?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a no.
And just for clarification, it's
It's just accessory dwellings.
pass the decision making to the planning commission for the most affordable way to mitigate.
Yeah, we don't have power.
But is it just for accessory dwellings? Because if it's none of the other developments that people put on their property, it's kind of, I don't see that makes any sense.
draft.
Well, if you're putting on, if the accessory dwelling is over your garage, attached to your house or separate, it's still the same.
Right, but he's
What if
saying
I-
that if you put a duplex on your property.
Or at a garage.
Or added a garage, you don't have to do.
But I was
Well, I
my motion was
thought-
specific to accessory
Right.
dwelling units being
Right.
advanced in the most cost-effective way.
But we're not making anybody else do it. And they may be putting something
I
that's
don't
gonna
know.
make a lot more money.
I
Right,
think
yeah,
that brings up the
I
whole
think
question
that
of
that has
fees.
to.
That's my concern, is that this is directed at this one specific housing type, and we've been talking all
I'm-
along about how if we're gonna apply tree permitting requirements to private residential lots, it ought to be applied in a much more holistic way with more public input. But that's fine if you want to.
So maybe I'm missing
I guess
it
I'm a nay
here.
right now.
We just need tougher tree things all over the
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the other.
But someone is,
I'm not gonna tell you
if
what
someone's
to
putting that.
say, but, the other, we've been discussing a long time, not just tonight, but, making recommendations to the planning commission, about implementing a citywide tree code, where you really have a permitting process, and you need to pull a permit, and there's more review. Owner is going to have to turn in a site plan indicating where the trees are and propose a mitigation approach, so that they can do whatever building they want to, but they've got to make a reasonable effort to preserve a large tree, and if they can't practically do so, mitigate for it. Right? So,
But that's more fair, that's everybody who's,
and it
that's-
applies citywide.
yeah. And to me because what we're talking about is not,
Right, I thought, and when you were talking about garage and above and stuff, I just assumed it was pretty much anything that's going on attached
No, that's
house
only
also.
one small type of building permit, and it's called an ADU, and
Alright.
it doesn't take into account the 20 other types of additions.
I believe the city is under huge pressure right now to make other alternative housing possible in the most efficient way at this time. The
Well,
whole state
I mean,
is, whole state is.
We wrote a grant in order to be able to do this,
Right.
upon directions from the city commission, so that's
So-
what we're following through on, yeah.
Again, all mine was doing is trying to respond to the accessory dwelling unit. I can tell you in about 1 minute a story. I was in FedEx where I do a lot of my work. Here was a young man, a certified, registered
I'm
contractor,
gonna stop.
doing
this.
design
I'm
work.
gonna stop this.
Real quick, design work.
No, we've had the discussion, we're in the voting
You're in the
process,
voting
right?
process.
Oh, I thought you already voted.
No,
Okay.
we got 3 votes to go.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
no, we got 2 votes to go. Matt,
all right, sorry.
I'm a nay.
and I'm an A. This
Okay.
motion fails. Okay.
Let me finish with the story.
Yeah, now you can have the story. I just wanted to get through the vote.
I didn't understand where you were in the process, I'm sorry. This man showed me his plans, the architect had done, and the city of Portland required this accessory dwelling unit to now have steel studs, which is not the way his house was built, because they considered it to be an accessory dwelling unit to meet the requirements of a I don't want to say apartment, of a motel. They were treating it that way.
Oh.
And he gave up trying to work with Portland. So I don't think we're doing things that detrimental here, are we?
No.
Requiring-
The focus is to remove barriers in the code. So that we can see more and more diverse types of housing built
Yeah.
under the existing zoning map that we have. But at the same time, respecting existing neighborhoods. So these are what they call missing middle housing types, because they're smaller and they fit into the neighborhood. Yeah.
But I still believe the codes are under attack in many places right now because of this desire to solve this problem simply.
right.
And
But, I mean, I agree that we should
And I'm not
plant
saying I
trees.
have the
I just
answer, I
think
don't.
if we're going to require
yeah,
people to
No, I-
plant, to
I
mitigate
agree.
trees, for those, we
Yeah.
should, any kind of
Sure.
development or
agreed.
I agree.
remodeling or something. I mean, it needs to be it's a bigger
It
issue
does,
yeah.
than
It
this
is.
little
It
thing.
is.
That's kind of
Wide crossing.
nitpicky on the
Yeah.
people who are doing the least
Yeah.
damage probably
I
to
hear
the
you.
property.
And that's kind of thought, I just thought I was adding on that, so
Yeah.
I was kind of misunderstood, but
It's okay, it's a great discussion.
Yeah,
I
it's,
think that needs
it's an
to
important
continue.
discussion, yeah.
It is.
We need to look at a bigger picture of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And my goal was.
I know, I'm turning into a pumpkin right
I
now.
know, I can tell.
My orange.
My goal is we had nothing specific on the agenda for our actual regular meeting, and I wanted to make sure we went beyond 9 o'clock.
Right, you did a good job, you did a good job, Mr. Chairman. You
Okay,
did a
I'm
good
gonna just do a quick roundtable. Does anybody have comments on anything?
Nothing.
Jerry?
Nothing.
Edie? You always have comments.
Oh, well, I think I threw mine up early because I was so mad about those trees.
Yeah.
But I think
I'm gonna go look
there's,
at that.
I think there's an ivy poll coming up in October, and I might be speaking a little bit too soon, but I think it's the third week in October, and I should look at my thing. I want to say October 20th.
Well,
Up at Waterboard Park, but
Okay, but-
that will be announced.
but that'll, yeah, we'll
That'll
have
come
a
out.
meeting before that,
It's
right?
October 20th.
October 20th,
Oh, it's
that's what it
October
was. Okay,
Okay, that's when the date is?
yeah,
And so the date is set.
it looks to be set.
And what time is it at?
It'll be at 9 o'clock at Waterboard Park.
Okay.
I've got nothing.
No.
Neither, I don't either, so. I successfully went beyond 15 minutes beyond regular time. I'm just completely satisfied.
Gonna go home and go to bed.
Rise and shine early in the morning.
I'll be out walking my dog at 5 in the morning again, so.
My wife is on a business trip, she just left Thailand.
October.
Yeah, and when are you doing your
Actually,
Abergashi?
the dogs.
We haven't set the date.
Okay, because I'm going to make sure and
We probably won't have anything, we're gonna have the professional.
What do I do?
So we probably won't be
She's a health-
doing anything until next year.
Healthcare administrator, well, she's, no.
just whenever there's one, I like to jump in whenever I can, because I sure hope people do ours. So,
You bet.
um,
But they're doing.
I think I might be gone.